been to Cuba. I have. I've been, but just Guantanamo Bay. My brother was in the Navy for a long time, and so we went to Gitmo to visit him for a week.
Siboney is it's a song, but it's also a town in Cuba, and it's a beach, and it's actually very close to where you were.
Really?
So it's and it's that end of the island, probably maybe a 40-minute drive from where you were. And actually, he wrote the love song, and it's a beautiful song. It talks about never losing sight of the people that you love, and to not be distracted by, all the noise around you. Remember your family, the places that you love, and never lose sight of that. And he actually wrote it about Cuba, because he self-exiled, once it became communist, he left. And he was really longing for his home, and Siboney was one of his favorite places. This was also the song that, National Cuba would play at the end of the day when they shut down the television stations. This was their unofficial national anthem.
Wow.
So he is like a hero in Cuba. He's buried in New York, and it flat out says, "I never return me to Cuba unless it's free." Basically what it says in his will. Yeah. So, it's a love of all of that. It's a love of our freedom. So there's like just so much that this embodies to us, that it's pretty special.
That is. With Barbara Lecuona of Siboney Cellars. Second installment. If you didn't catch the first one, you've got to check that out too. We tasted 3 of their other wines. Today, we're going to taste 3 more. We're going to talk about an Albarino. We're going to talk about Quatre Rouges, red wine, and Tempranillo today. So if you don't have these wines, follow the link. Head on over to Siboney Cellars, order them, use the Wine For Me promo code to get a free tasting kit, some recipes and fun stuff that'll come with your order. And then pop on over here and taste with us. Enjoy this. So we're going to start today with the Albarino, which is absolutely crisp and wonderful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? What made you decide to do Albarino?
We are doing a little bit of a Spanish flair. Finally. We seem to be a little bit all over the board, but Albarino just really fits in with what we do and some of the foods that we're trying to pair with. This is an absolutely crisp, fresh, bright, sunshiny wine, very different from the Sauvignon Blanc that we tasted. It is a great pairing with seafood, a great pairing with paella, which is kind of what we had in mind when we did this. So, again, another grape that we were giving it a try in Texas. It was our first time working with it. We weren't sure how it was going to be. Is it too hot here? Is it, how are we going to have good acidity? What are we going to do with it? And it turned out pretty lovely, pretty true to Albarino. It has maybe a slightly different flair, maybe a little bit more body. And again, that is going to speak to barrel aging. We are super small producer. We're working this vintage. We only did 500 cases of wine, which is what we did in 2017, 2018, 500 cases each, which is really not a lot. We also have very limited space, and we have limited equipment. What we do have a lot of are barrels. So we did ferment this in stainless steel, but we used some of our neutral French oak barrels and aged this for a little bit of time. We didn't want to leave it in there too long, just a little bit to let it just sort of all come together and become what it wanted to be. So no new oak. There's no oakiness about this. Those barrels were simply used as an aging vessel just to allow the wine to mature a little bit and come together before we put it into the bottle.
Yeah, like your Sauvignon Blanc that was also aged in oak. The oak it's just kind of giving it a little hug. Like it's just kind of holding it together and giving it a little softness, but there's no overwhelming oak accent to this whatsoever. I mean, it's beautifully blended within the wine. It's really well balanced. Yet again, I'm so in awe of you, Barbara. I really am.
Thank you. We start with the grapes. We're looking for the best quality fruit that we can get. And actually, these grapes, the Albarino grapes, were grown by the same grower as the Sauvignon Blanc. So same vineyard.
Okay.
Different vintages. And this is a fabulous grower up in the Texas High Plains. And they have a fair number of varieties that are planted, and we're just slowly working through them. We also did a Viognier from them in 2017, which wound up being a blend. But they have a lot of red varieties. So this is cool. It's not been bottled yet, but we did a port style out of Zinfandel from this vineyard also. So that is up and coming. It's still in barrel.
Okay.
We're actually really excited about it. So that's going to be coming out probably in the next year or so. But anyway, so it really starts with the grower, and then from there we have some decisions to make when we're making the wine, how we are going to handle the fermentation process. I like to get my whites off the skins pretty quickly. I think a little bit of skin contact can be interesting. It can add a little bit of structure to it. But I'm finding that adding that little bit of structure through just a little kiss of oak. And again, that oak is neutral. These barrels have been used. They've had other white wines in them. So there's no flavor, there's no aroma. It just allows the little bit of micro oxygenation for the aging process, just to sort of round it out and bring it all together.
Yeah, nicely done. Really, really nicely done. All right, and as I'm always going to ask, what's one of your favorite things to eat with this lovely Albarino?
With the Albarino, we have done this with a ceviche, which has been fabulous, and paella. We've tried it with actually a couple of desserts, which
really,
I did a little binge eat of a couple sugar cookies, might have been 3, and just got that like overwhelming buttery, like, oh, I need something, and what was there was a glass of this, and I thought, this is going to be horrible, but it completely cleansed my palate and just.
So what you're saying is, when we're baking our sugar cookies with our sweet little angelic children, this might be what we need. Okay.
This might help you through the process.
I'm gonna, well, mine are older now, but they make huge messes, but they do clean it up. So that's kind of cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm going to try this. And I don't think that would be the case of other Albarinos that I've had, but
it might not work with everything.
I'm going to give this a go. And yeah, check out my Instagram around the holidays, because we'll see what happens with that. I'm kind of
Let me know if it works.
I'm excited. Okay. I'm also excited about your Quatre Rouges, your red wine. It was just, and I love, okay, again, I love seeing Texas on the label. Love it. Okay.
Okay, so Quatre Rouge is a blend of 4 different red grapes, thus the name. So it is about 50% Tempranillo, which is from the Texas Hill Country.
Okay.
And then Syrah is our next big hitter. And then we've got about 15% Tannat and 5% Cabernet. So the rest of the grapes are from the Texas High Plains. And we're really trying to do, our first tasting, those were all single varietal. We did a Sangio that was a sparkling. We did a red Sangiovese. We did a 100% Sauvignon Blanc. We've done an Albarino, which is 100%. So now this was an opportunity to play with some blends. We honestly didn't have enough of any one of those grapes to make a single varietal. So, that's the honest truth. So we did a lot of playing around with different blends and trying to see what worked best. And this was the favorite blend that we came up with. And I think blending is awesome. I think it's great for us to try and say, okay, here's a Cabernet from the Texas Hill Country. Here's a Cabernet from the Texas High Plains. that's all coming. We've got that in barrel. It's really interesting. And I have to tell you that those two AVAs blended together are actually probably better than the two individually. So I haven't decided yet. But this is what's really super interesting about making wine, and especially making wine in Texas and dealing with different AVAs. So we put this blend together. It's a smoky kind of old world style. It's a little more rustic, very different from the Sangio. The Sangio is just a dead-on super clean. This is a little bit more natural style. All aged in oak, all barrel aged for about 24 months, mostly neutral French oak, a little bit of new oak, and it's fabulous with any kind of barbecue, any kind of red meat. It's just awesome. But it's also really approachable, easy to drink. It's very low alcohol, so a very, say, old world style. So not a California fruit bomb with super high alcohol, just a very restrained.
Which is nice because you can enjoy it and not worry so much about the alcohol effect. I mean, it's not hot. Like you said, it's smoky. It's a little bit silky. It's a little dirty, dusty, but in the good way, dirty, dusty. Sometimes I say that and my husband looks at me and I'm like, no, that's a good thing, honey. You can still taste a lot of fruit in here too. I mean, this is quite lovely. But you're right, very different than the Sangiovese. Very different, absolutely.
Yeah, a completely different style. And somebody said, what's your style of winemaking? And I'm like, I love old world wines, but I completely appreciate California and those big, huge Cabernets. There's different wines for different occasions, different wines for different foods, for different moods. And to me, the wine should be what the grapes say that they want to be. And for me, the challenge is, okay, how do you bring that out? How do you pull it together and make that work? Don't try to make it something that it shouldn't be. So that's everything that we're trying to accomplish, is to try to put the fruit into the best light possible.
Well, I think that you're in a great place to do that. The more I talk to you, the more I'm thinking about how Texas doesn't have a style. Texas doesn't have a grape. We're not in France where you must do it a certain way in this area. So you really are able to play and experiment. And I've been hearing you talk about, well, we didn't have too much of this grape, so we did a blend. Well, we didn't have enough space, so we did this, which I think is beautiful because you're able to really take what the earth is giving you and what the circumstances are giving you and making the beauty that you can from that. And it's working really well. But I think, since it was your husband that brought you back here to Texas, and I also was not born, I was born in Florida, but I did come to Texas eventually. But what I feel about Texas is, like, people here, and the whole spirit of Texas is making the best out of what you have, and not just okay, but really excelling. And I think that what you're doing is you're saying, okay, this is what this climate is going to give us. We've got really great sunshine, so we're going to make our Sauvignon Blanc take advantage of that. We have these varieties of grapes that we can get our hands on, so this is what I'm going to do with it. And I'm kind of bringing it back to Texas. I don't want this whole thing to be about Texas, but I think that that's what we're seeing now in Texas wine is we've got people that are innovators. We've got winemakers that want to try new things because you have the freedom to make the best wine that you can because there's not a tradition that's defining you. I don't know.
That's very true.
You can be a trailblazer.
I think that, you hit on great points. I agree with that. And it's one of the things that, we've, as an industry, we talk about what should be the grape of Texas. Well, all of them, maybe, because how do you make that choice? How do you, get to that point where, all that we have planted is Cabernet and Chardonnay. Well, I don't really want to do that. I mean, I think that's great that you could spend all of your time maybe working on 2 different varietals, but I started making wine in 2017. So, this many vintages, we only get to do this once a year. So I don't have that many years to try to make all these different wines. So everything that I can work with is just amazing to say, okay, what am I going to do with this? How do I keep it true to, what this grape should be? What is this varietal? Traditionally, how should it be? What region do I like it from? Because I'm also trying to make wine. I'm trying to make wine that everybody enjoys, either with food, on its own, with friends, that can be memorable. You might not like everyone because they're all different. And they're just, and I think that's good. It's nice to have that variety because I might not be in the mood for this tomorrow, but I might be in the mood for it today. Yeah. And it might go, you taste it and say, oh, this is going to go great with that meal I'm going to prepare. So I think having those options and those choices just makes it a fabulous place to make wine. And we don't have those restrictions. We're not limited to, you can use these varietals. And we have so many, these are all the reds that we have right now because the reds take time, they need to age. We have 80 barrels of red wine that are still aging from 2019. Mm-hmm. So we have like all these amazing blends, and we have a lot of Bordeaux varietals. We have a new Italian varietal. We're doing Aglianico for 2019. So we've done Nebbiolo, Sangiovese. Now we've got Aglianico coming. So we're super excited about it. So it's just like every year we get to try something else and then say, yeah, I don't love this, so maybe I'm not going to do that again. And then, build our program and say, these are the wines that we love. These are the wines that the people who are buying our wines love. And we're going to continue to do that and just try to make the best out of what we have. And that freedom is just, it's fabulous to be able to try and work with all these different things.
Super, super cool. All right, well, let's get some Tempranillo in our glass. Oh, wow. Okay, this is going to be good. Just shoved my nose in the glass, but now I can. All right, let's see.
This is fairly young, not a lot of this made. This is a 100% Tempranillo from the Texas High Plains. It is from Newsom Vineyards. And for anybody who's not familiar with Texas wine, Neil Newsom is one of the premier growers in Texas. He has the most beautiful vineyard. He takes fabulous care of his grapes. This was the first fruit that we ever got from him again through another winemaker who said, hey, I have an extra ton. Would you like to try it? And of course I would. So this is actually one of our heavier oaked wines. We only did 2 barrels of this, and 1 barrel was new French oak and the other barrel was 1-time used, or no, actually 3-time used French oak, so fairly neutral. It was in barrel for a little over 24 months. It definitely, this is one that we typically decant, or we leave the bottle open for a little while before we drink it. It can hold up to some air and probably a few more years in the bottle. But another one of our sort of nods to the Spanish idea behind our label, and we're finding it pairing great with steak. Mm-hmm. And what else have we done it with? We've done it with a few different things, but typically we're going the beef route with this wine, and it's been awesome.
I just want to get some Manchego out here, like right now. It's fantastic. Nice spice. I got a little blackberry, a little bit of spice, a little bit of pepper. I don't know. It's quite fantastic. So Tempranillo was, in the past, people have asked me, well, what wine should I have from Texas? I'm always like, oh, well, here's a Tempranillo I can suggest. And what I really enjoy about your Tempranillo is it's got that spice, but it also has the fruit, which really rounds it out. It's not leaning too much on one thing or the other. Mine, I just opened the bottle and poured it. I think the bottle was open maybe an hour before I tasted it. But now that you've said that, I think that you're right. What I'm going to try to do, because I think it's lovely right now, but I love when you find a great wine that you can have a glass or two. And if you're disciplined enough, which is really hard, close it back up and then have it the next day. I mean, you can always decant, but I think it's also fun to taste it the next day. And I think I'm going to give that one a go and see what happens. Cause I think sometimes you can really see how a wine shines, how it stands up the next day when you do that.
I agree with that. And the Sangiovese that we tasted before, that's another one that definitely that is going to age for quite some time in the bottle. So that's one that we've left open for a couple days, put it in the fridge, kept it chilled, put the cork back in, and you go back to it and it's still good. And it's one of the ways we kind of gauge how long the wines can age for as well. It's like if we open the bottle and we leave it for a week and we go back and taste it and it's still good, it may be different, it evolves, it changes, but it's still good. That actually allows us to predict how long we're going to be able to age those wines in bottle. So some of the wines we make are for early drinking. We do actually keep that in mind. Since we are really small production, we are trying to make some reds that are drinkable super early, others that you can hold on to for a while. We're hoping to find that balance of, oh yeah, you can drink it now, but you can also age it for a few years and see what happens. But it's really about that. I think ultimately we have some wines that are still aging in barrel that are going to be, bigger tannins. They're going to be longer aging wines, things that won't be released for a while or that you can lay down for several years. So it's another part of the evolution. Since we've just started making wines in 2017, we have, limited quantities that we're releasing and some things we're making for a longer term goal and a longer term vision. We have a couple different programs. We talked about the Solo program, which is our Italian varietal. We're going to carry that on every year. It may be different every year. The Quatre Rouges, the 2017 is a blend of all those different grapes that don't necessarily go together, but they do. And in 2018, the Quatre Rouges is actually a Bordeaux blend. So a little bit closer to traditional. So we've got Cabernet, Cab Franc, Tannat, and Petit Bordeaux. So every year that blend may change a little bit, but it's kind of fun to say, okay, we're gonna lead with this grape and we're gonna lead with that, and do that mix. So it's a fun thing for us to do. And again, trying to have all the wines be different and work with different things just to go with your mood.
Nice. I love it. Well, I have really enjoyed this taste into Texas wines with you. I'm so grateful that your husband brought you to our state and that the two of you are working on this project together. These wines are fantastic. And like I said, I've really enjoyed tasting them. I love that you're trying new things, you're pushing the boundaries a little bit, and that you're not stuck on just one thing. You're willing to give it a go. So I can't wait to come visit you sometime. It's definitely on my list. It was kind of on my list. Now it's absolutely on my list. Have to get out there. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This has been fabulous. I appreciate the time. Cheers to everybody. Cheers to you.
Cheers, cheers. All right, you guys, if you don't have these wines, you've got to head on over to Siboney Cellars and give them a go. Seriously. The bubbles, the Albarino, everything. This has all been the Sauvignon Blanc. We've had Sangiovese, Tempranillo, Quatre Rouges. You're covering it all. Good stuff.